us have volunteered there and had an opportunity to get to know Debbie. She's going to talk to us about some interesting things she's doing with her, as she calls it, the third of her life. And I hope that she'll talk a little bit about the efforts at food as medicine and also the need for diapers. So all of that we're looking forward to. Help me welcoming Debbie.
Thank you. Good morning, and I see friendly, familiar faces. So glad to know a number of you from pantry efforts. And I didn't see Larry and Judy on this morning, but they were in whatever day today is. I think it might have been yesterday or the day before, sealing up some rice, like dividing rice into small packets. So, oh, there's Larry. Hi, Larry.
Morning, Debbie.
Yeah. So the really exciting thing is, Phyllis, you'll be glad to know that I finally have spent all of the $2,000 grant that your club gave us. Yesterday, we bought 320 pounds of dried black beans, and I had a spontaneous purchase of 80 bags of maseca, which is the masa corn flour that they use to make, that our Guatemalan families use to make tortillas. So I had somebody tell me that that was something they really would appreciate. So I saw it, and El Progreso over in Urbana they gave us $1 off on each bag. So that was really good. So I went a little bit over the budget, but that'll be taken care of, no problem. So that's very exciting.
Excellent.
What we've been able to do, a number of you have experienced Pantry Day. And so the last Pantry Day that we had was, I think, March 12th. And after that, with the pantry, we'd kind of distilled down to undocumented Guatemalan families who came because they really valued the produce, because produce became the only thing, produce, rice, and beans were the only things we were able to offer on Pantry Day because of some funding issues. So after, for the first couple of weeks of being at home, I kept thinking, I'm willing to do something, but it just wasn't clear what to do. And finally, after a number of my volunteers called me up and said, what are we going to do for our families? I noticed in the paper an article that their CU Fair, I don't know if you're familiar with them, but it's Friends of Immigrants and Refugees. And there's an article in the paper about them delivering supplies and food to different families. So I called looked up their website, left a message, called the guy, and it's really been a great partnership because they're delivering to the homes of our people. It was hard to get the names of the families because working through Promise, of course, HIPAA is, guarding everybody's private information, and we're all thankful for that. But I remembered there is a woman that came into Pantry who often was with one of the young Guatemalan mothers. And so a little bit of sleuthing figured out that she works for an organization called CU Early that is a early childhood intervention group. Actually, I should look more into who they are. But so I reached out to them, and Amy was able to get me in less than 24 hours a list of 32 names. We needed names, addresses, and phone numbers. She got us 32 names, and 26 of those were active patients of Promise. So the first week we did 40 bags that were delivered. The next week we did 60. Last week we did 72. This week we have 80 on the list. So those are going directly to the families. And the really nice thing is that Amy and I are in contact, and so she's able to confirm to me what the foods are that the people are requesting. There's other efforts like with See You Better Together that everybody's probably heard of, but that's mainly working through the schools. A lot of our families have children that are not in the schools yet. They also are very, very timid. I should probably be more descriptive. frightened of people who come to their door that they don't know. So, and the other thing is to See You Better Together. Those of you who have talked to me know that the Eastern Illinois Food Bank is very limited in what we can get from them. So right now there's no rice. I've never been able to get black beans. The only canned vegetables they have, which our Guatemalan families don't particularly prefer, but some other families do, are peas, corn, and carrots, which, you know, if you're really hungry, you're grateful for it, but it would be nice to have a little bit more variety. And so, and they have lots and lots of macaroni, but no rice. So, so the food that our families are getting, while I'm sure they're thankful for anything, I think the fact that we're able to give them food that they prefer is really great. So we'll be today at 11, I'll be at Eastern Illinois Food Bank rifling through their cooler to see what kind of produce they'll do. We have a bag that has rice, beans, 2 kinds of beans, and we put some canned fruit and tuna in there this week, and then they'll get a box of fresh produce, hopefully, if there's some there, and then they'll get this 4-pound bag of masa flour. So thank you all for your help, whether it's, you know, at pantry or the $2,000 has been awesome for getting us the items, rice and beans in particular. The rice we get is from Illini Fighting Hunger. They've been very generous. They gave us their last 900 pounds of 50-pound bags of rice because they obviously are not on campus and able to bag that up. So we're bagging that up. So in the next couple of weeks, probably going to be buying rice from El Progreso also. So any questions about that? No questions. Okay, good.
Can you talk about the diapers?
Oh, thank you so much. But yeah, go ahead with your question. Hi, Ed.
How you doing,
Mary,
Debbie?
you're on mute.
Well, let me talk about diapers while she's unmuting. One of the things that's come up is when the families are followed up with, or even the drivers, when they'll ask if people need anything, and the consistent answer is diapers. The families, from what I understand, the SNAP benefits are what, you know, I still remember as food stamps. Those, I think, have been relaxed a little bit to include some diapers. Normally you can't buy diapers or toilet paper or anything like that with your SNAP benefits. But the thing is, our families don't have SNAP benefits because they're undocumented, and so they aren't receiving anything like that. And they mostly work as motel maids or in fast food, so they're obviously out of work right now. So the diapers are something that has kind of risen as a beyond, you know, the obvious, also a health situation. And so we are working at getting diapers 2 ways. One is we've kind of reached out to church and some individuals to say, hey, we'll take diaper donations, but then also if people want to donate money, they can send money in directly to Promise, designated for diapers, and then we can buy them at some place that you buy diapers. I have people that know how to do that. Fortunately, I don't have to do that anymore, but sizes 4, 5, and 6 in particular, which are the larger ones. The other thing that's really great is Amy, the contact there at See You Early, is willing to make sure that those diapers get to the families who are most in need of them. So,
hear me now?
There you go.
Yeah. See You Early. Is that the same as Head Start? Is that, or is that a separate organization?
I believe it's different, and I think it might be through it might be through Urbana schools. I should do a little bit more research. There is a website, See You Early, but there's so many social service agencies. Go ahead. Somebody knows?
Well, the only thing is, I just want to mention that I know that Head Start accepts undocumented families, and
Speak.
that they are doing a food distribution.
I want to speak. I hit.
So I just wondered if there was a connection between them and the CU person.
Come on, you right.
I can check with her. The great thing about Amy is that she is bilingual, and she has really worked hard to build up a relationship with these families, and they trust her. One of the issues in Champaign-Urbana, in my experience, is that there are a lot of social service agencies that kind of function as silos, and there is not always a lot of working together and sharing of resources and information. And that's one of the things I really love about what we're doing, because we're working with CU Fair, we're working with CU Early, and CU Fair has brought together a group of people from a number of different organizations that are all focused on helping in particular, the families that are falling through the cracks. A lot of them live at Shadowwood, and so I'm going to help them see if we can get produce for a food distribution that they do at Shadowwood on Mondays. So I don't know, and now the Boys and Girls Club has offered to be a staging place for produce, because you can't just do like we do pantry. The health department has rules, so everything has to be packaged and repackaged and delivered. So I'm really happy, because there are a number of organizations now that are coming together to work together on this. As an aside, it just might be interesting. The issue with the hog processing plant up in Rantoul is affecting a number of undocumented families, and they are being sheltered at home. From my understanding, maybe some of them in a motel up there, but there are people who, within this organization that CU Fair's put together, that's helping them out with taking them things, since they can't leave their home and they don't have any money. So. Any other questions about food as medicine?
Debbie?
Yes.
This is Larry.
I see you.
Could you talk about how Promise Healthcare is different from a lot of other food pantries, as far as what the patients at Francis Nelson receive? And it's part of, I think, Smile Politely also. Could you talk about the difference in that food pantry as opposed to others, and the nutritional value that is kind of the philosophy there?
Yes, I will. And it's Smile Healthy, which is a little bit different than Smile Politely, but.
Yeah, sorry, wrong word. Sorry about that.
Yeah, no, it's fun. That made me smile. And I do things like that all the time. So the way I got involved is that I'm a volunteer. This is kind of my volunteer gig that I'm doing in my third. And when Nancy was talking about the program, it's called Food as Medicine. And I've always sort of been, I've sometimes been annoyingly concerned with nutrition. And so I liked that idea that we could really do something that was giving nutritional food to people. So any family that comes in and is screened as food insecure, they have 2 questions that are asked. They both basically say, is there any time in the last month that you haven't had food or money to purchase food for your family? And if they say yes, they're given a bag of food. So a number of you have helped, we call it filling the wall with blue bags. And so those are continuing to go out. In fact, I was talking to one of the doctors there at Promise yesterday, and she said she just gives them to any elderly patient, or any patient basically that comes in. She just gives them a bag, because in this time they need it. So those are continuing to go out, and and the pantry is a 1-day pantry where people can come in and basically take whatever they need. And there are a couple of things that make our pantry different. One is we don't pre-pack things at the pantry, but just let them choose what they want and what they will use. We ask them that they not sell it and they not waste it. And I always put the don't sell it in there because I know in some other communities that has been a problem, that people got free food from the pantry and then went and sold it. And which really, I guess, if it's getting to people that need it, you know, you have to kind of remove yourself from that kind of thing. But these families don't. In fact, the first week after we gave when we gave out the 40 bags, Amy followed up. I asked her to follow up with some families, and one of the women said, I did have more than I needed, but I gave it to my neighbor. So I think in general, it's a community that shares and helps each other. We've had people come in, and when they see the produce in our pantry, have literally started crying, because produce is so expensive at the grocery store. It's usually the thing that doesn't make it onto the list if your funds are limited. When we ran out of funds and were only able to do the produce, I wasn't sure that we would be able to continue on, and had help with a past intern who was bilingual and had really gotten involved in the program. And she just started asking everybody that came in, if we can only do produce, is this worth it? And they said, this is really all we want. So this is the only thing we come here for, the rice and beans and produce. So does that answer your question, Larry? Did I say enough? Okay. Anything else?
I think we're all muted.
Go ahead. What?
I think we were all muted. That's why we were awkwardly quiet there. So.
Yeah, I
had to mute people because every time you guys would click a coffee cup, you come on as a speaker. So I need you to mute yourself so you're not actually speaking. So, yeah.
I'm seeing if I can show you Spirit. I told some of you about Spirit. And Phyllis asked me to mention Spirit in an email. So moving on to a new topic, Spirit, and this is really cool story that Ed Perry and I share, we're pretty sure. We are hosting Spirit, who is, she belongs to Leader Dogs for the Blind in Detroit, or actually north of Detroit. And she went through a year-long program being paired with a prisoner, and he trained her in basic obedience and socialization. She went back to Leader Dog for the Blind to be trained. She was so much what they're looking for that they pulled her to be in their breeding colony. So she is a future Leader Dog mom, and she's been bred once. Unfortunately, the pregnancy failed, which was hugely disappointing. We were really looking forward to little puppies to, you know, distract us from being limited and where we can go. But anyway, so we're waiting for her to come into heat again so we can take her and get her bred. So she's kind of a delightful, she's an amazing dog. If you had told me that a 2-year-old black lab could be sweet, I would not have believed you, but she's just been so well trained. And really, they say they screen these dogs for an attitude of work, and I had no idea what they meant until I met Spirit. And she definitely is a dog that wants to work. That's about as far away from me as she gets, even if I don't want her right under my feet. But and Ed Perry, can you mention your dad?
Be happy to. When my father lost his sight, he went up to Michigan, and part of his training was to get a leader dog. And through the rest of his life, I think he had 3 different leader dogs, all very, very polite and excellent workers, and quite valuable to someone who's blind, to be able to get out and about and move around the city and things.
Wow.
Yeah, that was just such a fun connection. And so our responsibility with Spirit is that hopefully she'll have a litter this next time. And I guess it's kind of common for dogs the first time that they have a pregnancy, not common, but not unusual, that maybe they don't produce quite enough progesterone or something to hold the pregnancy. So they'll watch her very carefully. After so we're responsible for whelping her here in our home, taking care of the puppies for 7 weeks, which we hope we enjoy. So, because we're committed to doing it 4 times. And then after she has 4 litters is the ideal, then they'll spay her, and then she'll become our dog, our family pet. So, and I'm not supposed to advertise this greatly because they recruit people saying you can keep the dog forever, but we've kind of promised her to our grandsons, but that was before we met her. So we might have to do it again because we really have learned to enjoy her. So she gets to go and spend the night with them every once in a while, and that's fun for everybody.
So it's amazing what dogs are capable of doing. So there's a study going on now that they're using training dogs to detect COVID-19.
Yeah.
And their ability with their nose is just phenomenal. What they're capable of doing.
What'd you say, to detect what?
COVID-19.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Coronavirus. Yeah.
Yeah, COVID virus. And I mean, it's pretty phenomenal. And I see Carrie's left, but Subaru does a lot with sheltering dogs. And I don't know if a lot of that's going on now, but transporting dogs out of high kill states and moving them to ability to be adopted. And so at Subaru, they host them overnight many times, and I don't know. And my wife works with a group called Mobile Mutts. And we're one link in the dog railroad chain, get them out of kill states and take them up north. So it's pretty amazing, the capabilities, but they have to be trained for that. So it's pretty remarkable.
I've been trying to train Spirit to sniff out morel mushrooms.
You could do that. You absolutely could, but it's all about reward.
Yeah. So. I think I'm out of time, am I?
No.
Do we have time for another question on a different topic?
Yeah, I do. On the undocumented people, do they get any kind of health care from any organization at all? I know that, and I understand undocumented, they cannot even go to the regular clinics.
Promise Healthcare is a not-for-profit that is specifically an organization that serves the underserved. And it's an amazing organization, and Nancy Greenwald is the executive director, and I would not want to be in her shoes ever, but especially right now. But they provide huge amounts of care and don't require payment. So, and they don't get reimbursed for a lot of, for any of the undocumented. So it's always a financial challenge, but it's a very worthy organization. That's their whole purpose, is to serve the underserved.
So how do they do the documentation? Do they have any kind of forms that they have to fill out, or? I mean, they have to give their names and everything. So I'm just wondering about that. I'm sure they're concerned about their identity going somewhere else. But I'm just wondering in that area if there's any kind of documentation that goes on when they come in.
There is. And I know in our pantry, we just ask them to give us their name and the city that they live in. Promise has information, and the way that we have been growing our numbers for food distribution is Promise has been calling people, and then they've been signing waivers and making the agreement to have food delivered. But they do have documentation. The thing is, a lot of these families don't know their birth date.
Yeah.
Many of them are illiterate. Most of them don't speak English, and some of them don't even speak Spanish that well. So it's tricky, and Promise has found ways to helped them and have really worked at building trust.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that all the addresses that people have are necessarily accurate, and they move a lot too.
They do. Yeah.
And most of them live in trailer homes because that's where you can have a rent without an ID. So.
Promise also has a dental program too, don't they?
They do, yeah.
Yeah, which is really good.
It's focused on children, but they also will treat adults who are patients at Promise. So Promise Healthcare is the organization, the umbrella organization for Francis Nelson, that's been around for 50 years. And then Smile Healthy was started, I don't know, probably 10 or 15 years ago. And so that Promise kind of is when those two organizations came together and have one overreaching organization.
Can I ask something? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Two things. First, I just wanted to mention too, Alva Center is open in the Francis Nelson building on Sundays. And of course, they're all volunteer medical professionals. And then totally off topic, but I understand you're a realtor, and I'm just curious what you're seeing in the last month in the real estate business locally.
Well, I sold 2 houses yesterday. I was pretty excited. So one was a listing that I had that we got an offer on, and then one is actually the offer isn't signed, but I have somebody that's making an offer. You know, houses are still moving, and I have a client who's coming from Cincinnati. They haven't been able to come yet, but I've been doing video tours for them. And I got an email last night, and she's like, it looks like the house that was our leading house in Mahomet is under contract. And so things are moving. It definitely is not moving like it was, but I don't think we're going to suffer great, price changes or anything here. We've always been a little bit of a real estate bubble here. And I was talking to somebody yesterday that refinanced their house, and they got 10 years at 2%. So I think the fact that interest rates are low are still keeping people kind of actively in the market. Showing is a challenge. I prefer to show vacant houses. So.
Right.
Thank you.
Sure. So somebody tell me how much time I have.
Let's give you another 5 minutes.
Okay. I can be done, but I just kind of wanted to throw it, or I said I could be done, and they just kept talking.
Say what you need to say, dear.
Okay. Those of you who have been around me know I can keep going. So I'm just going to kind of, because the third was thrown out there, I just kind of want to explain that, because that is kind of my, I have a business, I have a website called yourbestthirdthird.com, and a newsletter that goes out. And when I turned 60, which was now more than 8 years ago, I thought, okay, I threw myself a party. For one thing, I stopped dyeing my hair and I got sassy. That's my story. I wanted a party, which I'd never wanted before in my life. But I told my husband where I wanted it and who I wanted to be there and how I wanted it, because I wanted it the way I wanted it, but I didn't want to do it. And he did great. So I had a great party. It was a great birthday. And a couple of days later, I was thinking, okay, I'm 60 now. So that means I should start slowing down, relaxing. I need to figure out how to do this. And then it dawned on me that my mother was 90. And so from 60 to 90 is 30 years. And because I'm really good at math, I figured out that 30 of 90 is a third. So I thought, I've got a whole third of my life left, and I can't slow down and relax for 30 years. And at first it felt a little bit like, it didn't get me excited, because I thought, wow, that's a long time to figure out what I'm going to do if, you know, I'm supposed to be slowing down. But then I realized that I could very intentionally make it the best third of my life. Because the first third we spend learning, you know, we learn to walk and talk and do math and, you know, learn how to navigate relationships. And then the second third, from 30 to 60, we earn, you know, we earn money, we earn a reputation, we earn life skills, we earn, you know, we earn. So then in this last third, we can build on all of that learning and all of that earning, and then design that last third of our lives to be the best third. Because most of us are gonna live to be 90 or older because of the healthcare we have, and, you know, people are just living longer. So we need to plan for that. So my message is talking to people even in their first third and say, you know, you're going to get to a point sometime that you've got 30 years at the end of your life that you can invest well and be very intentional about, and make it be the really best years of your life. So that's where the third comes. I've written a book called Which Old Woman Will You Be? With the idea that, you know, if you go to a nursing home, there are two kinds of people there. There are the really nice ones, and then there are other kind of ones. And they didn't just become that way when they got their Medicare card or when they needed, you know, to be in some kind of assisted living. So the older we get, the less energy we have to pretend to be anybody other than who we are. And the other thing is, the older we get, the less we care what other people think of us. And so who we really are at our core is going to ooze out of us, whether we want it to or not. So we ought to be thinking about that so that we become the person in our third that we want to be. So that's my elevator speech on a long ride.
That's very
about
nice.
your best third. So.
That's wonderful.
Debbie,
Your math is quite good as well.
Yeah. Very impressed.
That is not my strength, believe me.
Debbie,
In fact, yesterday we were making bags for the deliveries, and I was helping. I have two young women who come in every week, and I call them my bag ladies. And so I was helping them, and we totally lost count of the bags, and they told me I could never come back and help again. So.
Debbie, thank you very much for this morning.
Thank you, Debbie.
When we get back to semi-normal, we have books that we donate to various programs in the names of our speakers. So thank you. I'm going to stop.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'm going to stop the recording.